The Amazon rainforest location and importance of the Amazon rainforest. The Amazon rainforest is located in South America and is the largest tropical rainforest in the world. It stretches across 9 countries, with the majority lying in Brazil, around 60%, followed by Peru, 13%, Colombia, 10%, and smaller portions in Venezuela, Ecuador, Bolivia, Guyana, Suriname, and French Guiana. Size. It covers an area of about 5.5 to 6.7 million square kilometers, larger than the entire European Union. Amazon Basin. The rainforest is centered around the Amazon River Basin, which drains nearly 40% of the continent. Amazon River, the second longest river in the world, flows through it, carrying more water than the next 7 largest rivers combined. Global importance. Lungs of the Earth. The Amazon produces roughly 20% of the world's oxygen through photosynthesis. Carbon storage. It acts as a massive carbon sink, absorbing billions of tons of carbon dioxide, helping regulate Earth's climate. Biodiversity hotspot, home to 10% of the world's known species, including rare plants, animals, and insects found nowhere else. Weather regulator. The rainforest generates enormous amounts of its own rainfall, influencing weather patterns globally, even as far as North America and Africa. Freshwater source. The Amazon River releases about 20% of the world's freshwater into the Atlantic Ocean. Cultural importance. Around 30 million people, including over 400 indigenous tribes, depend directly on the rainforest for their culture, spirituality, and survival. Economic value. Provides resources like fruits, nuts, medicinal plants, timber, and contributes to eco-tourism. Historical background of the Amazon rainforest. The Amazon rainforest is not only a natural wonder, but also a place with a deep human and geological history. Geological history. The Amazon has existed for at least 55 million years. Forming after the Andes Mountains rose and redirected river systems eastward toward the Atlantic Ocean. Over millions of years, the basin developed into a dense tropical forest, becoming one of the oldest and most stable ecosystems on Earth. Fossil evidence shows that during prehistoric times, the Amazon basin was once a massive inland sea, later transforming into wetlands and forests. Early human settlement. Human presence in the Amazon dates back at least 11,000 years. Archaeological evidence shows early tribes cultivated crops, built settlements, and developed advanced land management systems. Ancient geoglyphs, pottery, and terra preta, nutrient-rich, black earth soil created by indigenous peoples, show that pre-Columbian societies were far more complex than once believed. European exploration. In 1542, Spanish explorer Francisco de Orellana became the first European to navigate the entire Amazon River, from the Andes to the Atlantic. He named it Amazon after encountering fierce women warriors, reminiscent of the Amazons from Greek mythology. Colonial and economic exploitation. From the 16th to 19th centuries, European colonizers exploited the rainforest for natural resources such as timber, spices, and later rubber. The rubber boom, 1879 to 1912, brought wealth to cities like Manaus and Belém, but it also caused massive exploitation of indigenous peoples, forced labor, and environmental damage. After the boom collapsed, the rainforest returned to relative isolation but remained vulnerable to logging, mining, and agricultural expansion. Modern era. In the 20th century, industrial development, cattle ranching, soybean farming, and road building accelerated deforestation. By the 21st century, The Amazon had become a global environmental concern, with scientists warning of a potential tipping point where large parts of the forest could turn into dry savanna. Today, the Amazon is both a symbol of biodiversity and indigenous heritage, as well as a battleground between conservation and exploitation. Transformations. Over time, the Amazon rainforest has undergone immense changes, both natural and human-made, throughout its long history. These transformations reveal how delicate its balance is and how human activity has reshaped it. Prehistoric and natural transformations. 55 million years ago, the Amazon was formed after the Andes Mountains rose, reshaping rivers and creating the Amazon basin. Ice ages. Climate shifts over thousands of years caused parts of the rainforest to expand and contract, influencing species diversity and distribution. Biodiversity growth over millions of years. Isolation and adaptation led the Amazon to become one of the most species-rich regions on Earth. Indigenous transformations. Indigenous peoples transformed the Amazon long before Europeans arrived. They cultivated manioc, maize, and fruits, shaping the forest's plant diversity, created terra preta, black earth, a highly fertile man-made soil that still supports agriculture today, built networks of villages, ceremonial centers, and geoglyphs, leaving a permanent mark on the forest landscape. Contrary to the myth of the untouched wilderness, the Amazon was a cultural landscape managed by humans. Colonial and post-colonial transformations. 16th–19th centuries. Colonization, disease, slavery, and forced labor devastated indigenous populations, reducing some communities by up to 90%. The rubber boom, 1879 to 1912, transformed rainforest. Cities like Manaus and Belém into wealthy hubs, but at the cost of human suffering and large-scale exploitation. After the boom collapsed, much of the forest regrew, but scars remained in both environment and societies. 20th century development governments promoted deforestation and settlement to develop the Amazon. Highways such as the Trans-Amazonian Highway 1970s opened remote regions to ranching, logging, and mining. Population increased as settlers migrated for land and resources. Massive areas were cleared for cattle ranches and soybean farming, drastically altering ecosystems. 21st century challenges and shifts. Deforestation has continued, although international pressure and policies have slowed it in some areas. Fires, often deliberately set for agriculture, have destroyed large tracts of forest. Climate change has intensified droughts and heat waves, pushing the Amazon toward a tipping point where it could shift from rainforest to savanna. Conservation efforts, ecotourism, and indigenous rights movements have risen to counter exploitation. The Amazon is now viewed as a global ecological safeguard, critical to the fight against climate change. Ecology and biodiversity of the Amazon rainforest. The Amazon rainforest is often called the world's greatest biodiversity reservoir, hosting an unparalleled variety of life. It is a complex, interdependent system where every layer from the soil to the canopus sustains millions of species. Forest structure, natural architecture. The Amazon has 4 main layers of vegetation, each with unique species. Emergent layer, the tallest trees, rising 50 to 70 meters above ground, home to eagles, bats, butterflies, and some monkeys. Trees, like the Kapok Tower here, with crowns absorbing direct sunlight. Canopy layery, dense roof of trees, approximately 30 to 45 meters tall, blocks most sunlight. Contains about 80% of the forest's species. Hosts, monkeys, sloths, toucans, and countless insects. Understory layer shady, damp, and rich in plants that thrive in low light. Home to jaguars, leopards, snakes, frogs, and insects. Many medicinal plants grow here. Forest floor dark and humid, with little sunlight. DECOMPOS. Fungi, insects, microorganisms recycle nutrients. Larger animals like tapirs, anteaters, and jaguars roam here. Fauna animal life. The Amazon is home to around 10% of all species on Earth. Mammals, jaguars, pumas, giant otters, capybaras, and pink river dolphins. Birds, macaws, toucans, harpy eagles, and over 1,300 species. Reptiles, anacondas, caimans, iguanas, and turtles. Amphibians. Over 400 species of frogs, including colorful poison dart frogs. Insects, estimated 2.5 million species, from ants to giant beetles. Fish, over 3,000 species in the Amazon River, including piranhas, arapimas, and electric eels. Flora plant life. The Amazon hosts over 40,000 plant species. Iconic trees include the Brazil nut tree, mahogany, and rubber tree. Plants provide food, timber, latex, and countless medicinal compounds. Medicinal significance. 25% of modern medicines are derived from rainforest plants, but less than 5% of Amazon plants have been studied. Biodiversity importance. The Amazon acts as a genetic library, holding potential cures for diseases and solutions for agriculture. Its complex food webs maintain ecological balance and resilience. Many species are endemic, found nowhere else on Earth. Indigenous peoples and cultures of the Amazon rainforest. The Amazon rainforest is not just an ecological wonder, it is also home to millions of people who have lived in harmony with it for thousands of years. These communities hold vast cultural, spiritual, and ecological knowledge, making them key guardians of the forest. Population and distribution. About 30 million people live in the Amazon basin today. Among them are 400 to 500 indigenous groups, each with distinct languages, traditions, and territories. The largest populations are in Brazil, Peru, and Colombia, though smaller groups are spread across Venezuela, Ecuador, Bolivia, Guyana, Suriname, and French Guiana. Way of life. Subsistence living. Indigenous groups traditionally depend on fishing, hunting, and small-scale farming. Manioc, maize, fruits. Housing. Many live in communal houses made from palm leaves and wood, blending naturally with their surroundings. Transport. Rivers are highways. Canoes and boats are primary means of travel. Crafts, baskets, pottery, feather ornaments, and body paint are essential cultural expressions. Knowledge of nature. Indigenous peoples are skilled botanists and healers, using plants for food, medicine, and rituals. They have identified thousands of medicinal plants, many of which modern science is only beginning to study. Traditional ecological knowledge guides sustainable practices, ensuring balance with the forest. Spiritual and cultural beliefs. The forest, rivers, and animals are seen as sacred and interconnected with human life. Shamanism is central. Shamans act as healers and spiritual leaders, often using plants like ayahuasca in rituals. Stories, myths, and songs preserve oral history, explaining natural phenomena and moral lessons. Uncontacted tribes. The Amazon hosts more than 200 uncontacted tribes, the largest concentration in the world. These groups live in isolation, avoiding contact to preserve Their way of life, they are highly vulnerable to diseases and encroachment. Modern challenges for indigenous peoples, deforestation, mining, and logging threaten their lands. Loss of traditional territories forces many communities into poverty and cultural erosion. Illegal activities, drug trafficking, wildcat mining often lead to violence despite struggles. Indigenous movements are fighting for land rights and forest protection, increasingly gaining recognition. Environmental importance of the Amazon rainforest. The Amazon is often called the lungs of the earth because of its crucial role in regulating the planet's climate, producing oxygen, and storing carbon. Beyond being a rich ecosystem, it is a global environmental stabilizer. Oxygen production through photosynthesis. Amazon trees and plants release massive amounts of oxygen. It produces around 20% of the world's oxygen supply, essential for life. On Earth, carbon storage and climate regulation. The Amazon is one of the world's largest carbon sinks, absorbing billions of tons of CO annually. By storing carbon in its trees and soil, it helps slow down global warming. If destroyed, this stored carbon would be released, accelerating climate change. Rainfall and water cycle. The Amazon generates its own rainfall through evapotranspiration, trees releasing moisture into the air. This process creates a flying river of moisture, which influences rainfall across South America, North America, and even Africa. It is responsible for 15 to 20% of all freshwater discharge into the oceans, mainly via the Amazon River. Biodiversity and ecosystem services, home to 10% of all known species on Earth. The Amazon is a genetic treasure house. Its biodiversity provides resources for medicine, food, and potential scientific breakthroughs. Ecosystem services include soil, fertility, pollination, water purification, and nutrient cycling. Global climate influence. The Amazon's dense vegetation helps regulate Earth's temperature by cooling the atmosphere. It acts as a buffer against extreme climate events like droughts and floods. Scientists warn that large-scale deforestation could push the Amazon past a tipping point, transforming it into a dry savanna, which would disrupt global climate systems. Cultural and human significance provides indigenous peoples with food, medicine, shelter, and spiritual identity, supplies the world with natural resources like fruits, nuts, timber, and medicinal plants. Its preservation is tied to human survival. Far beyond South America, modern challenges of the Amazon rainforest, despite its vastness and resilience. The Amazon rainforest is under severe threat from human activities and climate change. Scientists warn that it may be approaching a tipping point, beyond which it could collapse into a dry, savanna-like ecosystem. Deforestation, main cause of destruction. Over 17% of the Amazon has already been cleared, driven by cattle ranching. Largest factor, approximately 80% of deforestation. Soybean farming for animal feed and biofuels. Timber logging, both legal and illegal. Deforestation not only removes trees, but also disrupts rainfall cycles, threatening the entire ecosystem. Fires often set deliberately to clear land for agriculture. During dry seasons, they can spread uncontrollably, releasing massive amounts of carbon dioxide. Fires in recent years have drawn international concern, with smoke reaching cities thousands of kilometers away. Infrastructure development, highways, dams, and settlements fragment habitats and open up previously inaccessible forest regions. The Trans-Amazonian Highway 1970s triggered mass deforestation and migration into the forest. Mining and extractive industries. Illegal gold mining contaminates rivers with mercury, poisoning fish and communities. Large-scale oil and gas projects destroy habitats and often encroach on indigenous lands. Mining leads to deforestation, pollution, and social conflicts. Wildlife threats, poaching, and illegal wildlife trade endanger species like jaguars, macaws, and rare reptiles. Habitat loss is driving species toward extinction at alarming rates. Climate change, rising temperatures, and reduced rainfall risk turning the Amazon into a carbon source instead of a carbon sink. Droughts and floods are becoming more frequent and severe. If 20 to 25% of the forest is lost, scientists predict an irreversible shift to savanna-like ecosystems. Indigenous and human rights challenges. Indigenous groups face land invasion, displacement, and violence from illegal loggers and miners. Loss of traditional lands threatens their culture, livelihoods, and survival. Conflicts between conservation and development continue to escalate. Conservation and preservation efforts of the Amazon rainforest. The Amazon rainforest is at the heart of global environmental discussions, and while threats remain, there are many efforts, local, national, and international, working to protect it. Protected areas and national parks. Over 300 protected areas exist across the Amazon basin. Examples: Central Amazon Conservation Complex, Brazil, a UNESCO World Heritage Site. PACAY, Asamiria National Reserve, Peru, rich in aquatic biodiversity. Yasuni National Park, Ecuador, one of the most biodiverse places on Earth. Together, these reserves protect millions of hectares of rainforest. Indigenous rights and territories. Indigenous territories are often the best preserved regions of the Amazon. Legal recognition of land rights has been shown to drastically reduce deforestation. Indigenous groups are increasingly involved in and conservation projects, reforestation and restoration projects. Local and international NGOs run tree planting programs to restore degraded areas. Efforts like Plant a Billion Trees and Brazilian-led reforestation campaigns are helping bring back lost forests. Scientists are exploring how to accelerate natural regeneration of forest ecosystems. International organizations and initiatives. WWF, Amazon Watch, Rainforest Alliance, and Greenpeace are major players in protecting the rainforest. The Amazon Fund. Brazil receives international donations to finance sustainable development and conservation projects. Global agreements like the Paris Climate Accord emphasize protecting the Amazon as key to limiting climate change. Sustainable alternative ecotourism provides income to local communities without destroying the forest. Sustainable agriculture, like shade-grown coffee and Brazil nuts, supports livelihoods while preserving biodiversity. Green technologies and renewable energy projects reduce dependence on destructive industries. Awareness and activism. Global campaigns, documentaries, and activism have brought attention to the Amazon's plight. Protests and advocacy have pressured governments to enforce stricter anti-deforestation laws. Youth movements and indigenous leaders are becoming prominent voices in the fight for the forest. Summary table. Amazon rainforest aspect. Details: location, South America, spanning 9 countries, mainly Brazil, Peru, Colombia. Size approximately 5.5 to 6.7 million square kilometers. Largest tropical rainforest in the world. River system: Amazon River, approximately 6,400 kilometers long. Discharges approximately 20% of world's freshwater biodiversity. 10% of Earth's species, minus 40,000 plants, 2.5 meters, insects, 1,300 birds, 430 mammals, 400 plus amphibians, 3,000 fish. Indigenous peoples, 30 million people, 400 to 500 tribes, including 200 uncontacted groups. Historical background: ancient ecosystem, 55 million years. Indigenous civilizations: European exploration, 1542. Rubber boom, 1879 to 1912. Modern exploitation. Environmental role: produces approximately 20% of global oxygen. Massive carbon sink, regulates global rainfall and climate. Modern challenges: deforestation, fires, mining, cattle ranching, soy farming, climate change, illegal activities. Conservation efforts: national parks, reserves, indigenous land rights, NGOs, international funding, reforestation, ecotourism. Label: significance, essential for climate stability, biodiversity, fresh water supply, indigenous heritage, and human survival. The Amazon rainforest is more than just the world's largest jungle. It is the heartbeat of our planet. Stretching across 9 nations, it produces oxygen, regulates climate, and safeguards one of the richest biodiversities known to humankind. Its vast rivers, towering trees, and hidden communities are not just part of South America's heritage, but of Earth's collective survival. For thousands of years, indigenous peoples have thrived here, guided by deep wisdom that treats the forest not as a resource to be consumed, but as a living relative to be respected. Yet today, this fragile paradise stands at a crossroads. Deforestation, fires, mining, and climate change threaten to unravel a system that took millions of years to evolve. Scientists warn that if we lose the Amazon, we lose not just a forest but a lifeline for the entire planet. Still, there is hope. Conservation projects, indigenous leadership, global activism, and sustainable solutions are proving that protection is possible. The future of the Amazon depends on choices we make today, choices that will echo for generations. The Amazon teaches us a profound lesson. When we protect nature, we protect ourselves. Its rivers flow not only through South America, but through every drop of rain, every breath of air, and every heartbeat across the world. The fate of the Amazon is the fate of the Earth, and its survival is our shared responsibility.